think it's important that we use our business economics and our tribal economics and diversifying it to something that's going to be sustainable, something that we can believe in. Previously we looked into fossil fuels and other harmful industries in order to make a living. With hemp, we don't have to do that. So, I do deal with tribal councils. I work in economic development departments to help them understand this plant beyond the money into the sustainability, because besides the economics, we do have a sustainable piece. We have a environmental piece that we can really look into. Hemp can help heal the land, it can heal the air, it can heal the water, and it can heal us. So those are the teachings that I try to keep in my work. And I am very excited to share with you some of the tribal hemp history that we've recently uncovered. But this plant is nothing new to human history. It's been around for the last 8,000 years. It was first found in China, where they've been using this plant for a very long time to make paper and medicines and fiber and textiles. Even in India, they've had this plant to wear and to fix their buildings and structures and to eat. So this plant just gives so much, and there's so much that we can learn and heal through this plant. More recently, the United States, they drafted their Declaration of Independence on hemp paper. I don't know if anybody knew that. And Henry Ford built his first car out of hemp. The structure of it ran on hemp oil. So there was some monopoly going on in business and government that made it illegal. The Marijuana Tax Act actually took down hemp with it, along with some very, very strong medicines that we could have been using besides opioids and besides fossil fuels. They knew this. So I agree, we don't want to look to our government to give us any guidance on this anymore. And we really need to start marking that path forward into that new green revolution to understand what this plant can really do for us. And looking back through history, what I want to show you today is that tribes did have a relationship with this plant. We have uncovered recently that there are artifacts in museums that show that we use the fiber portion of this plant. And I've been to conferences in many other tribal areas, and I had tribal members come up to me, and the one that stood out to me is that they uncovered some old smoking pipes on their lands. They wanted to know what they were smoking in their tobacco or anything, and they did find cannabis THC resin inside their smoking pipes. So I have a feeling, that this is something we did use as medicine as well. Most recently, we had the 2018 Farm Bill signed into commercial law. So we are going to start looking at this through a commercial lens, and economic development piece. But again, we can't lose the teachings of this plant, and we can't abuse it. So what I'm going to do today is I want to take you through my journey. I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you guys and kind of show you some of the artifacts that we have found. It's going to be very interesting, and it spans all over America. So let me just share my screen really quickly and we can get started. So I hope you guys can see that. I'm going to transfer here. And Bridget, I just want to double check, is this showing up okay on Connex?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, everyone. So, again, I've been working with tribal governments. I've been going to conferences, economic summits for communities. And this is one of the first things I like to show them is that, we've had a connection to this plant. So it's not anything new. This is nothing new to us. It's actually reclamation for us to return back to this plant. So this is my presentation that I have got ready for us. And I'm going to run through some of the things that I've been doing. So as Bridget has mentioned, I've been on my journey since 2017, and it did start as an internship with my tribe's economic development company. They wanted me to look at the economic piece, but the moment I started looking at economics and learning more about this plant, it just blew my mind how much that we're missing, how much we are overlooking when it comes to the sustainability and the environmental and the socioeconomic piece. It's much more than, making money. So 2017, I started with education. I started educating myself, but immediately turned around and started educating water protectors. I started educating my tribe's economic development department, and I didn't stop there. I went nationally to conferences. I've been to the Tribal Green Symposium for a couple years. I also attend NOCO in Colorado, because I just wanted to share this information with tribes. I just really thought it was important. In 2018, I started working on legislation in my state of Kansas and supported the Alternative Crop Research Act, started entering comments there and lobbying for that so that into 2019, we could start cultivating hemp under the research pilot program, which I did do in Kansas. I worked with a local farmer, and we were the first set of licenses, licenses in Kansas. We did earn one of those. So it was such a great experience to learn. We did have some growing pains. We were trying to understand this plant. We didn't know much about cross pollination back then, so it was such a learning journey. And then in 2021, more recently, I've been working with tribes to help do their research programs in Kansas, and we did a little bit more than 10 acres this year. I am now I did start Bear Cub Consulting, but I currently am an operations manager at Prairie Band Ag, and we are working on hemp flower and hemp grain and fiber processes, and we're going to go over 100 acres this year. So we're going to really hit it hard. And again, I want to do it with respect and with care to the plant, but also to help unlock its potential, so that in 2022, next year, we have our sights on processing. We definitely want to vertically integrate the regional processing piece for both tribes and surrounding farms. And we want to actually have tribes bring us their material, kind of like Alex was saying, is we need that central decortication and seed press for our communities. And we are centrally located in Kansas. I hope we are able to do that. We can take up to 700 acres to process. So, and we can definitely build out that infrastructure to cater to more people. So that's my journey now. It's gone from education all the way through laws. Now we're cultivating, and now I'm under a commercial operation. We are looking to process in the future for our people. So some of the ideas that we have, I've been trying really hard to bring them to life, influencing tribal councils and economic development teams. And I can't wait to do this even more in the future, because it's very important for us to lead and to be at the table, and not on the menu, just like Winona said. So I'm just going to run through the phrases that we have in Meskwaki. I have a little map here I'm going to show you. So in my tribe, the word for hemp is just wild weed. It's mishaske, midashke, mishaske. So it just means wild weed. It's something that we kind of had in our communities. We definitely have it all around Iowa and before we came down from the Great Lakes area. So this is our word for the hemp plant and the cannabis plant. Here is a very interesting map that I created, and I know there's got to be more than this, but these are the tribal hemp artifact locations of tribes that we found that have that connection to the plant. I'm going to show you pictures here in just a minute. All the way from Washington to California, Paiutes over here, all the way to the Mohawk tribes and out in Washington, and even my tribe in Iowa. We had our own artifacts that we're going to get to just right now. So let's take a look. How was tribal hemp involved in everyday life for indigenous people? So I want to start here. I found this, really diving deep into the historical societies and state history museums. So this is a Meskwaki hunting bag. It's also known as a twine bag. We have made these for, centuries. This is how we carried all of our supplies and tools. This is in the Iowa History Museum in Des Moines, Iowa, and this is made out of hemp. So they had this researched, and it's been around since early 1900s. So this is a more recent one from my tribe in Iowa. And I have a recreated bag of this. We had recreated it so I can start, educating people in person when I travel. So the next, and here's another version of a hemp fiber bag. It's also a twine bag. You can see how it's been weaved together. This is a Menominee hemp fiber bag, and it's at the Milwaukee Public Museum. So they don't have this out on display. You have to ask for these artifacts in the back. But, it's just beautiful. Look at the artwork that they have on here and the care that they put into this. It's just amazing. I love it. So here's some different artifacts. Meskwaki Potawatomi, they believe, had access to these, and they are prison ties. These are actually hemp fiber and fibrous material. Um, we did use it for ropes. We used it for bags and even everyday items like this Nez Perce woman's hat. This was actually a blend of corn husk and hemp material from the early 1900s. You can find this at the Beauty Surrounds Us exhibit, National Museum of the American Indian in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. So if you wanted more information on some of these, I tried to link them as best as I could. So you can go take a look at those. Here's another one. So it's this is a burden strap we use to carry other items and other bags. Oh, I'm sorry about the editing here. It is from the Mohawk tribe from the early 1800s. Actually, that's when it was donated. So this was actually dated back to the 1700s. And with the Mohawk tribe being on the East Coast, I could believe that because they would have had access to some of that hemp seed that American farmers were spreading around. I imagine that maybe we didn't farm it. We probably saw it growing wild and harvested it that way. So that's just speculation. But, they had access to this plant in the early mid 1700s. You can find this at the Infinity of Nations National Museum of the American Indian in New York. Let's see. Oh, sorry. 1 second. Okay, so what I have here is a one of these artifacts that I really want to recover because this is up for sale and up for auction right now, which I just think is very wrong. But the Menominee beaded bandolier bag, as you know, woodland tribes use this along with twine bags. The mounting is hand stitched to 100% hemp fabric. You can also find this at the Milwaukee Public Museum. This is made in the 1880. So the late 1800s. This is something that tribes, fashioned for ourselves. So I really like this bag. All the stitching is very beautiful. So here are some leggings. A lot of tribes did have these as part of their, outfits, everyday wear. These are Walla Walla man leggings found in 1880 through Washington State. Again, this is at the Beauty Surrounds Us exhibit in the U.S. Washington, D.C. So here's it's coming to the end of the artifacts that I found, but this is Pyramid Lake, Northern Paiute, fishing net and spear. This was found in 1920. So we did use the rope, the material, we used it for netting. And then even off to the side, I don't know if it's on the next slide, but nope, we also used it to make duck decoys so that we could attract game or get us closest to game. They had wrapped up duck decoys in some of the hemp fiber, which was really interesting. Again, Museum of the American Indian in New York. So another version of a modern twine bag. We have Jessica Demir Eaton out of the Great Lakes. Or no, what she's I can't remember what tribe. If she somewhere in the Great Lakes area, and I do apologize. I should have put it on here. But this is a modern version of a twine bag. She donated that to the Illinois Museum so that we could see a more modern recreation of some of the bags that we used to have. And so, finally, the historical meaning of hemp, I did want to run through this because hemp didn't didn't just apply to cannabis. It also applied to a couple of different types of fibrous material. So there's Indian hemp, dog bane, wild cotton, and then cannabis hemp. So, moving forward, I'd like to find out and just make sure, which one of these it was. But they are referring to hemp and on every one of those presentations. And to me, I believe that it is the cannabis hemp here. This is what I believe they're using because it's held up for so long and it's still in good condition. So, my question is for everyone here listening today, does your tribe have a word for hemp or cannabis? Is there any kind of oral stories or histories that you guys can share? Because, we want to start getting all of this documented for future generations and start doing the work to show that we have that connection to the plant much earlier before they banned it, before the government banned it. We were using this because again, as tribal people, we look to plants for healing and for material. And I think that we should also start building that dialogue and that information for our people so that they can see that. Um, and how will your tribe want to look at hemp in the future? I think it's important that we all realize that the industry is probably going to be specialized. So it's going to be regional. Some tribes may not be able to do, what another tribe might be able to do, but working together, we can create that supply chain in an Indian country and start moving toward this more green revolution. So I just want to thank you for listening, Gadabi, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Let's see. So, those are some of the things that I've been looking into and seeing. And I like to look at hemp from a global perspective, because, even though America has banned it, there's places in other countries and around the world that never have, and it's still serving their communities well. I think we need to start looking much harder at the government and asking for accountability in the things that they're doing. A lot of the way that we operate is for profit. There's a lot of commercialization, and even though I am in business and I work in economics, that's not where my heart's at. I really like to bring my indigenous perspective into the business that I do and make it sustainable and have our tribal councils understand it's not just about the money. And we can't compete with other nations. We have to work together, because this plant is not going to let us succeed until we do. I see people using the plant and trying to use it for profit, and they're failing. So, and I think that's the reason why the plant knows that they don't have good intentions and that they're not there to really unite the people, because this plant is a unifier. And right now, our country needs that. We need something to come together under, and hemp and cannabis just puts a smile on everybody's face. And, I think that's a great way for us moving forward, is that we need to see that, we're all connected and that we are all in this planet together, no matter how different we think somebody is, or there's something that we can see as a community together, and hemp can help us kind of come together and see that. So, um, I just want to say thank you to Winona LaDuke and allowing me to be here again. I've been at past conferences, and this one is going to be really exciting. We have a great lineup of people coming to speak. Next, I think we're going to be talking about legislation and getting some updates on tribes. For our tribe in Kansas, the Prairie Band Potawatomi, we did pass our legislation last year, been looking into research, and this year we're moving into commercial operations. Again, doing that in a good way, doing that in a sustainable way, and trying to build that supply chain for our people to utilize. So, if you guys are interested in growing hemp, please, don't hesitate to reach out. But if you're interested in getting your stuff processed next year, definitely reach out to me. I want to create a network for tribes to bring their materials to our central location in Mayetta, Kansas, so that you can have your material processed, decorticated, seed pressed. We're looking at all of that. So I just want to say, Gadabi, thank you for listening to me. And yeah, Bridget, if you have any other last comments or questions, yep.
Yep, I'm looking at the stream here, and we have a question here. Can you describe the auction of the artifact and how to recover it?
Oh, yes. Actually, you can see it online. There's even a set price. It's about, oh gosh, what did they put it for? $1,800, which I really wanted to get some what is that, when we reclaim our artifacts, we really need to get someone to look at that piece, because it's a really beautiful piece. And for the fact that they have it up for auction is just offensive. We got to start reclaiming some of that for us. So if I can, I'll get the link of where it is. I'm going to post it in the comments right after this. And that way we can get together some money to recover it. It's around $1,800 though.
We have another question from Stephanie Thorpe. Is there anyone interested in hemp charcoal?
Hemp charcoal, like in biochar, hemp biochar, or I mean, if that's what you're thinking about, I mean, hemp biochar is going to be a really, really huge for remediating the lands, especially the tribes that were involved in heavy metal extraction, resource extraction. Their lands really need hemp to start remediating the soils and pulling out the heavy metal and toxins. And biochar is actually going to be one of the ways to do that as well. It's going to feed the soil and feed the microbiome that's down on the ground. So yeah, I mean, Yeah, I think there's a definitely an interest there, but not a lot of people know about it. So just education.
There's another question from Primal Wellness. We seem to be focused on hemp as a cash crop or the economics of cannabis. Why can't we look into revitalizing the land?
I agree. I 100% agree. And again, I work in economic development. I am working on behalf of tribal councils to, get their investments to look at that. But um, that's also what I talk about is that this is a remediator. We're going to heal the soil in our area that's been over farmed, and other tribes can use it for their fossil fuel extraction, and they can build their topsoil and really the roots of the hemp plant go deep down into the soil so they can break up all that compact soil while also aerating it and pulling up the toxins and heavy metals. So that is a topic of conversation. Again, I work in economic development, so I have to also appeal to the tribal governments, returns and business side, but that is an option 100%. I think you would need to just get with your tribal government to make sure you have either the regulations in place or just start planting it out there. I don't think there's anything that could stop you from spreading a couple seeds around, but you definitely get with your tribal council to see if you have laws and set it up remediation programs, not even to sell, just to heal the land. I agree 100%.
Jennifer Olson says, I'm fascinated by the possibility of hemp as flour. Can you speak to that?
Well, hemp is cannabis. As we look at this industry, the whole plant is usable, and the government is the one who separated it out. So, I mean, hemp is flower material, also known as CBD, but there's many more cannabinoids that they're finding. There's CBG, CBN, there's Delta 8. There's a lot of science behind this. So this is a great opportunity for our youth to start looking into STEM sciences, biosciences, horticulture. That those are areas for our new generation to start looking into so that we can start really understanding the genetics and the science behind this plant. So yeah, hemp as flower material is very, very it's very huge right now, and it's a great medicine, besides the THC part. But hemp is cannabis, and what we're doing is we're just growing the flower. Just has more of a cannabinoid than another one. So, yeah, I think it's a great medicine moving forward, a great plant medicine.
And we have one final question before we move on to, or maybe we could do a couple more, but Lars says, is there a policy framework for tribes to adopt to help promote the hemp cannabis industry?
Oh, so besides your, tribal hemp plan and your codes and regulations, I don't know if there's like a unified policy. That's something that we should really look into, having an intertribal hemp association, something that we can all kind of have a framework. We're actually working on that. There's a couple people that are going to speak later. They're called Indigican, and they're trying to create that marketplace and that national kind of framework that we can all operate under. So that's such a great question. It's definitely needed. But if you want more information on what something like that looks like, go onto the USDA and look at all the tribal hemp plans. A lot of tribes are looking at this differently. That's what we did. We took a lot of our language from the Ogallala tribe because they're very progressive on it. Some tribes aren't. So, I mean, it really is tribe by tribe, but we do need to have some kind of unified framework or ideas moving forward. So I agree, but we're working on it.
Camille, this is going to be our last question before our next speaker. Camille says the B or the Big Horn and Little Big, oh, the Big Horn and Little Big Horn rivers run through my res, and they are very polluted from ag runoff. Would planting hemp along the river help?
Hi, Camille. And yes, that's such a great question. Actually, yes, it can. If you plant hemp right on the banks of your river, it can start pulling toxins from the water, actually, and the soil that's next to it. And actually, they have something called hemp rope, and it's an absorbent rope that if you needed to, you could put it in the river. Now, that's something you'll have to buy, or we make ourselves, where you would put hemp herds inside of like a mesh bag. You let it lay in the river, a couple, parallel rows, and that is going to start pulling out all of the toxins and the glyphosate, because we have that same problem on our groundwater, is that it's being polluted by agriculture. So again, changing the agricultural practices, to start healing the soil along the banks, and then creating that hemp herd rope, or hemp, like it's a hemp sock kind of, to start pulling out all of those toxins. So I mean, these are ideas that are being used right now, and even the oil industry uses these for oil spills. They have been using hemp for oil spills for the last 10-15 years. They use hemp oil to lubricate all their machinery on the extracting piece. So it's so funny how this plant is actually helping heal in ways that we never knew about, and is directly tied in with the oil industry. So yeah, that is something that can happen. It can work. Start with the planting right near the banks. Start with influencing the farmers right there. And so, hemp grain is going to replace hemp corn someday, or definitely compete with it. So we just really need to transition our lands and our agriculture and our farmers to see that this is an opportunity. So I see that happening in the future. Definitely, definitely.
All right. Well, that concludes. Well, we can keep continue. We'll have time during our break sessions and um, other spaces too for other questions. So we will definitely continue the conversation. But we have a next speaker coming up. So I will let the host do that. So thank you.
All right, Gadabi, thank you for listening.